सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ तत्सत्। ॐ नमः शिवाय। So today we will start the 15th verse. So please, we'll do the chanting. So please unmute yourself. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Karma Brahmodbhavam Vidhi.
Karma
Brahmodbhavam
Vidhi.
Brahmakshara Samudbhavam. Asmat Sarvagatam Brahma. Nityam Yagne Pratishthitam. So I'll just mute all of you. So Karma Brahma Udbhavam Vidhi Brahma Aksharam Samad Brahma Aksharam Udbhavam Tasmat Sarva Gatam Brahma Nityam Yagne Pratishtitam. Karma Brahma Udbhavam Vidhi Brahma Akshara Samudbhavam Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma Nityam Yagne Pratishtitam. And the Anvaya is just that only. Karma Brahma Udbhavam Vidhi, comma, Brahma Akshara Samudbhavam, full stop. Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma, comma, Nityam Yagne Pratishtitam. So look at the sentences. Karma Brahmodbhavam Vidhi. Vidhi. You should know, you should understand. Karma Brahma Udbhavam. That karma is born from Brahma. So Brahma here is Veda. Okay. That you remember that Brahma here is not Satchit Ananda Brahman. Brahman here is the Veda, because what Veda ultimately reveals is a Brahman. So Brahman very often, Veda is very often referred to as Brahman. So here, Vidhi, you should know, Karma Brahma Udbhavam. Udbhavam means to be born of. So you should know that karma is born of the Veda, and further, Brahma Akshara Samudbhavam. Samudbhavam is again born of. Therefore, Brahma, Veda, is born of Aksharaha. Akshara means imperishable, not alphabet. Okay. Also means alphabet, but in this case, Ksharam is that perishes. Aksharam is that which does not perish. So that which does not perish is Easwara, and therefore Brahma Akshara Samudbhavam. So two statements have been made. Vidhi, that Vidhi is to be applied to both statements. Brahma Aksharam Samudbhava Vidhi. You should know that Veda is born from the imperishable Easwara. And Vidhi, you should also know that all karma is born from the Veda. That is the meaning of that first sentence. And therefore, Tasmat, therefore, Sarvagatam Brahma, that all pervading, Sarvagatam means all pervading, formless, found everywhere. Sarvagatam, all pervading, all pervasive Brahma. Where is the Brahman found? Nityam Yagne Pratishthitam. is always found in Yajna. Okay, Sarvaka Brahma is always found in the Yajna. Remember again here, Brahma basically is talking about Veda. So in simple English, it means that all Vedic karma, remember, is born out of the Veda. The Veda is born out of Ishvara. And therefore, this Veda is just like Brahman. It is all pervading because it is always employed in every yajna. Therefore, Sarvagatam Brahma. Nityam yajne pratishthitam. That Veda is always found in all rituals mandated by the Veda. So it might look a bit confusing. So we'll discuss in detail. Now we talked about in the previous verse, we talked about the cycle of creation, right? We talked about the balance of creation. And therefore, we should know if we are to be, in harmony with this creation, if we have to model our lives so that creation is not disturbed, the harmony of creation, the balance of creation is not violated. If we want to model ourselves, if we want to live a life like that, first thing we should know is that which particular karma maintains the harmony of creation, which particular karma contributes towards the balance of creation, and which karmas violate the balance of creation. Okay, this we should know. And here an implication is that, so when I say we should know which karma balances creation and which karma violates the balance, it is very simple for us to say that that is all quite easy to understand, is it not? But no, there is a problem, because all human beings, all jivas are finite creatures. Why? Because you have a upadhi. The upadhi is finite, and therefore from that finite upadhi, you cannot have infinite knowledge. And therefore, because your buddhi is finite, because jiva's buddhi is finite, human beings' buddhi is finite, intellect is finite, therefore the knowledge which that intellect gives me can also be only finite. Because of that, I can never really and completely understand which actions are good for the maintenance of the harmony of creation and which actions are not good for the maintenance of the harmony of creation. I will never really fully understand, because I am not able to appreciate the full impact of any action that I do. The complete chain of karma phalam, I am unable to see because of my limited intellect. And you can, for example, some of the examples, of course, which we have in technology. Like several years ago, that the technology came up with the refrigerator. Okay, a very useful appliance, right? Because everybody was very happy because your food could be kept fresh, especially in our countries like India, where there's a lot of humidity and heat. It could be kept fresh. But now we are seeing now that there is a negative side to that. What is that? What is the negative side to the invention of the refrigerator?
The
ozone layer
to preserve it.
the carbon footprint.
We eat stale food.
Deplete the ozone layer.
Yes. So we didn't realize that time that CFC, which is going to be used in the refrigerator, is actually going to damage the ozone layer. And that ozone layer is dangerous for our survival. So the limited intellect which we have, we could not predict this. And similar, because the ozone layer is very necessary for us. Why? Because the sun gives you nourishment by way of sunlight, but it also gives you, those rays also contain poisons which are toxic for our survival. Right? It can create cancer, it can create various other diseases, it can kill us. And therefore the Lord created the ozone layer, which is a filtering layer. Right? So that creation of Easwaran was to save us. What did we do? We created something which made a huge hole in that layer. And therefore, now we find that out. When the refrigerator was first invented, we did. Now we have to find out how to repair the damage. which is what I was saying, that very often because of our limited intellect, we are not able to know what is really harmful for us, right? Like cars, for example. When the automobile was first invented, nobody thought of things like greenhouse gases, right? Carbon monoxide. And what happens when they go to the atmosphere? There's a greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect is what? The temperature of the earth increases. And there is a rising temperature. When the rising temperature happens, what happens? The ice melts, the polar ice melts. Then there's a whole chain of effect which we have not realized. What happens when the ice melts? The levels of the ocean increase, right? The ocean reclaims a lot of land, and therefore there's a flooding of certain countries. So now, in retrospect, we can see the connection between the increase in these technological inventions like automobiles and the flooding of certain nations, which would have been impossible to see at that point of time. And therefore, that is why Krishna says that don't depend upon your intellect, because your intellect don't depend completely upon intellect, because the intellect is limited in nature. And that is why the scriptures, the Shastram, talk about a way of life which is meant for universal harmony. And that Shastram is not fallible, because unlike our inventions, scripture is not the product of a human intellect, unlike science. And therefore Krishna says, follow the lifestyle prescribed by Shastram. You may not know the scientific reason behind many religious practices, but in fact, you may even think it is superstition. But down the line, maybe 30 years, 40 years, 50 years down the line, you will find that these religious practices had a very strong scientific background, which I was not able to see. Right? To have, for example, things like tulsi leaves, which we have used for hundreds of thousands of years without really knowing its value, because it is a practice, it was a dharma shastra practice. And suddenly we discover the value when some American patents the neem. The tulsi leaf is patented, right? We use rudraksha. Many people think it is just basically superstition, tradition having no value. But Shastra says it keeps the global harmony, not only just the harmony of the individual, it keeps the harmony of the world also. And this is what he's saying. Karma Brahma Udbhavam Vidhi. Remember that all actions which are harmonious for the world are taught by the Vedas. For example, Pancha Mahayajna is taught by the Veda. So, and here, of course, as I said, the word Brahma should be taken as Veda. And therefore, Krishna is saying that don't take the Veda as Paurishaya, as an invention of a human intellect, because the Veda has been there for thousands of years. And it doesn't matter whether it is 5,000 years or 1 lakh years old. Vedas can stand the challenge of science even now. Right? Why? Veda doesn't deal with the external world. Veda deals with the internal world, the subject himself. The science cannot deal with the subject. Science deals only with objects. And if you find a defect in the Vedas, or if you think there is a defect in the Vedas, it is basically because I have not learned to understand it properly. And therefore, Brahma Akshara Samudbhavam. Veda is not an invention of human intellect. Veda has come from Aksharam, Bhagavan, Easwaran himself. And therefore, rishis who have taught the Vedas, they have not invented the Vedas. Rishis have served as basically a medium for Vedic teaching only, just like the teachers. Or you can think of a television set. The television set does not produce the music which you hear, right? It is only a reception agent for the music. The television set does not produce the movie which you are watching. It is only enabling you to watch the movie because of its characteristics of reproducing that. And here he says, Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma. This Vedic teaching is spread all over. It is all pervading. And especially this Vedic teaching is more prevalent where Nityam Yagne Pratishtitam. Wherever there are ritual yajnas going on, Means wherever the Veda is being followed in spirit, wherever there are sacrifices going on, wherever there is sharing going on, wherever Vedic teaching is being predominantly accepted, wherever there is dhanam, in all these places, you will find that Veda is prevalent. Wherever the Veda is prevalent, wherever the Veda is really being followed, you will find that the lifestyle is not damaging to the environment. This is the text of that one verse. Very beautiful reason why we should be at least aware of what the Vedic teachings are. Okay. Now, let us chant the 16th verse. So please unmute yourself. Evam pravartitam chakram.
Evam
pravartitam chakram
Nanuvartayati hayaha.
anuvartayati
Aghayurindriya ramaha. Mogham partha sajivati.
Mogham partha
jivati.
Okay, again I'm muting her. Now look at the grammar part of it again. Evam pravartitam chakram. Then that nanu vartayatiha has to be broken up. Na anuvartayati. And then iha. So that word nanu vartayati iha has three components. Na anuvartayati iha. And then yaha. Then aghayuhu. The breakup is there. Aghayuhu. Indriya ramaha. Mogham partha sajivati. So Aghayu Rindriya Ramaha is broken into two words. Aghayuhu. So Aghayu plus Visarga and Indriya Ramaha. And we can put the Anvaya as He Partha, son of Pritha. Yaha evam pravartitam chakram. Yaha evam pravartitam chakram. Iha na anuvartayati, comma, agha ayuhu indriya ramaha, comma, saha mogham jivati. That is the sentence. Now, let us look at the words. So, He Partha, O son of Pritha. Pritha was, of course, then. He Partha, son of Pritha. Yaha, that person who. Yaha means wo, that person who. Na anuvartayati. Anuvartayati means does not follow. Yaha na anuvartayati. That person who does not follow, who does not adhere to. Evam pravartitam chakram. This cosmic wheel of activity. That person who does not adhere to this cosmic karmic wheel, where iha, in this life. So he's being very careful. Yaha iha na anuvartayati. That person who does not follow this cosmic wheel in this life. What happens to him? Agaha ayuhu. So agha is basically papam. Agha means papam, karmic demerit, if you want to call it. So agha ayuhu, his life, ayu here is, ayu normally means the age, but here it means life. Agha ayuhu, his life is full of papam. And indriya aramaha, so he is satisfying indriya, sense organs. Arama here is pleasure. So he gets pleasure through sense organs only. Saha mogham jivati. Such a person, he lives for no reason. He lives for no mogham. He lives in vain. So he's saying that person who in this life does not abide by the cosmic cycle of creation, which is initiated by whom? By the Lord. That person is a aghayuhu. He is a sinful person. Indriya Ramaha. He spends his life in following sensual pleasures. And Mogham Jivati He Partha. Arjuna, that person lives in vain. His life is worthless. So we are talking about what? Karma Yoga. Remember this whole section? We are discussing Karma Yoga. So Karma Yoga is, Krishna is saying, in Karma Yoga, what is important is giving, not taking. So the difference between Karma Yoga and Karma is very clearly stated here. Karma is taking oriented. What do I get? Karma Yoga is giving oriented. What can I give to society? So a Karma Yogi, therefore, we mentioned earlier also, a Karma Yogi, therefore, because of this difference, a Karma Yogi will measure his success in terms of what he has been able to give to the world. The more he gives, the more he considers himself as a successful person. Whereas as a Karmi, the more I take, the more I hoard, the more I possess, I consider myself a successful person. And you can judge for yourself in today's world, how are you considered successful if you have lots of possessions? So the Karmi is considered successful in today's world, while the Karma Yogi is looked down upon. Therefore, if a person dies with plenty of money, he's a Karmi who has had a successful life. But a Karma Yogi may die without any money at all. But if he has given more than he has taken, he will consider that his life has been a success. And that is why you look at our historical literature, right? You will find that anybody who has sacrificed, and that is why sacrifice, renunciation, all these are glorified. Anybody who has sacrificed, you will find that he is glorified. The glorified person in our scripture is not a rich person, but a person who has been able to give up. And therefore, Swamiji once said, the essence of the Gita, you can very simply understand how you have to just reverse the word. When you reverse the word, what do you get? You reverse Tyagi. Right? So Gita reversed is Tyagi. And therefore they say that the person who chants Gita, 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 Gita finally will end up chanting Tyagi, 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 Tyagi. The one who renounces is called a Tyagi. And this of Tyagi is a successful person. And therefore Krishna is strongly criticizing a person who does not give. So he says all such people are aghayuhu, they are sinners. Why? Because they have consumed more and they have shared less. Evam pravartitam chakram. This chakram is a reference to what? The verse number 14. Anna bhavanti bhutani parjanyat anna sambhavaha. Tasmat yajñat bhavati parjanyaha. Yajña karma samudbhava. You have to connect it there. What did we talk about there? We talked about a cycle. What does the cycle mean? Cycle means give and take. And therefore this chakram is that cycle where there is a process of giving and taking. So evam pravartitam chakram. In this manner of giving and taking, this harmony of the universe, the universal chakram is maintained. Universal cycle is maintained in the form of taking and giving. And of course, even more in the form of giving. And therefore he says, yaha na anuvartayati. The person who does not give, who does not believe in sharing, he is not a consumer. He is a consumer, but he is not a contributor. Therefore, he only amasses his own wealth for himself. He does not share. Such a person, he says, aghayuhu. His life is made up of papam. And therefore, he is a sensualist. Indriya Rama. His whole life he spends for sensory pleasures alone. He indulges only in sensory pleasures. And he says, Hey Partha, such a person, Mogham Jivati. Such a person lives in vain because he's not useful to himself. He's not useful to society also. So as a human being, while living, he is useless. After death also, he is utterly useless. So what is the use of such a life, Hey Partha? So life is meaningful only if I have shared things from society, with society. And in that sharing process, I have achieved my purusharthas. I have achieved dharma, and ultimately I have achieved moksha also. And if you don't do that, then Krishna says you have lived in vain. So this criticism in the Gita, remember, is not meant for a karmi. It is meant for the understanding of the karma yogi, of the sadhaka, to draw your attention to this wheel, to this chakram, and to draw our attention to the necessity of following the chakram. We should know what the wheel signifies. And we should know why it is necessary for us to follow this wheel. And Shankara here, at the end of this particular verse, Shankara summarizes verse number 7 to 16, very simply saying that for a person who is in the beginning stages of spiritual sadhana, which is what? Karma Yogi. That Karma Yogi is, remember, triangular format. He knows Jagat, he knows Ishvara, and he knows himself. Karma Yogi is not a jnani, but he is in the beginning stage of sadhana, which means he is doing his karma yoga, then he'll do upasana yoga, then he'll come to Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasana. So right now he may be in karma yoga or he may be in upasana yoga. He's a karmi, and in both these dualities there, and therefore he knows that I am the jiva, I am doing the sadhana to become Ishvara, and I have to do the sadhana in this world. So for him, there are three things: Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, which is what we call triangular format. For this karma yogi, say Shankara, for this sadhaka who is in the triangular format, the main focus of his life, Shankara is very clear, the main focus of his life should be Pancha Mahayagna. And Jnana Yoga should be there, but as a secondary objective. Why? Because Jnana Yoga is not going to take any effect until Chitta Shuddhi is there. And Chitta Shuddhi, for Chitta Shuddhi, what do you need? Pancha Mahayagna. And therefore, for a person in triangular format, Pancha Mahayagna, Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga are predominant. And Jnana Yoga, Shravanam, Maranam, Nididhyasanam is subsidiary. And once Pancha Mahayagna has done its job, once that person has matured, his mind has matured, he has moved from the triangular format to the binary format, where there is only Ishvara and there is Jagat. Then he should switch over from Pancha Mahayagna to Jnana Yoga. So Jnana Yoga should be the main focus. Pancha Mahayagna should not be dropped. It can be reduced. Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga can be reduced for the person who is in binary format. But he cannot make it zero, because as long as in Grahastha, he has got relationships, he has got connections with the world, and Panchayagna is necessary. So this is the very beautiful summary given by Shankaracharya. Just in 2-3 words, in lines, he says that this is the crux. When you are a beginner, when you are in triangular format, a Karma Yogi, stick to Karma Yoga, Upasana. Don't ignore Jnana Yoga. Go for your classes. Once your mind has matured, once you are sure that Chitta Shuddhi is there, once you begin to recognize that there is no Jiva, that you and Ishvara are the same, then Jiva drops away for you, and only you and the world are left. Ishvara and the world are left. Then focus on Jnana Yoga as your main sadhana and continue to do Karma Yoga, but to a much more reduced extent. The time taken should be maximum for Jnana Yoga at this time, and Karma Yoga is subsidiary. Okay.
Ravi, can I ask one question?
Yes, please.
So yes, in binary format, the Jiva understands that Jiva and Ishvara are same. So in that case, can we also say that it is instead of Ishvara and Jagat, just Jiva and Jagat?
No. Jiva is subject to samsara. Ishvara is not.
Okay. Okay.
That is why we
Thank
use
you
a
so much.
difference. Okay. Now let us look at verse number 17. And there's a very important point in Munmun's statement. Can anybody point out what Munmun meant when she asked, can I use Jiva instead of Ishvara? I don't know if Munmun
Yes.
herself recognizes, but
She means to say that if you are Ishwar himself, then you realize that you are no different from Atma and Brahman.
so the fact that she uses the word Jiva, Munmun, would you like to elaborate why you said that? I don't know if you are able to
Yes,
recognize
because
clearly why you said that.
there was one thing that in Shankaracharya, one sentence of that Jiva na para Brahmaiva, or what was that?
Okay.
Jagat Satya Mitha.
Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jiva. Yeah.
Brahma Satyam Jagat Mitha Jiva. So according to that, I was actually asking if Jiva is there's of course not in Bachartha but in Lakshartha. So according to that, I was asking if we can say
The point is that what is illustrated by whenever a person says Jiva, in spite of knowing that it is Ishvara, what is being exposed is there is an unconscious doubt. Can I really be Ishvara?
Yes.
So that is the main need for Mananam. That doubt must go. It's like asking, is the RC the OC? Is it? Is the RC different from the OC?
In one sense, yes. In one sense, no. According to what I understand.
You see, the RC should be able to say that I am the OC, because the essence of the RC is the OC. Without the OC, there is no RC at all. That is, and most of us, while we are willing to accept that, yes, Brahman is the creator, Ishvara is the creator. Ishvara is the creator is something which is most of us will intellectually accept. But when I ask you to say, I am the creator, then there is a doubt. Okay, how can I be the creator? As long as you have that doubt, how can I be the creator? There is a very subconscious impression in your mind that you are the finite Jiva. That's what I wanted to point out. When people use these terms, it's no disrespect to Munmun. Okay, Munmun? I'm just using that statement only as a pointer that you should be comfortable with the idea that I am Ishvara. Until you can very comfortably, do that and say, yes, I'm Ishvara. You are not in binary format. Binary format is not intellectual understanding. For Jnani, it is. Binary format is not intellectual understanding. It is assimilation. And therefore, at this stage, most of you, because we have been doing Gita in very great depth, using Shankaras. By now, most of you know that scripture says that you are Ishvara. That is fine. But can you say you are Ishvara is the point. If I phone you in the middle of the night, will June get up and say Ishvara speaking, or will he say June? That is the question. When you can do that, when you can thump your chest and say, yes, I am the creator of the universe, then you are in binary format. That's my point over here. Okay, so with that understanding, now let us go to verse number 17. So we will chant. Yastvat maritare asyat.
Yastvat smaratireva syat.
Yastvat maritareva syat.
यस्त्वात्मनिर्भरस्य
आत्मतृप्तश्च मानवः
आत्मतृप्तश्च
आत्मतृप्तश्च
मानवः
मानवः
आत्मन्येव च सन्तुष्टः
आत्मन्येव च सन्तुष्टः
तस्य कार्यं न विद्यते
तस्य कार्यं न विद्यते.
Another very beautiful verse. So look at the grammar first. A bit of complex words, so I'll just break it up first. Yastvat maritireva syat. So yaha, you drop the half sa. So yaha, that half sa is the indicator of visarga over there. So you drop the half sa, replace it with a visarga, so it becomes yaha. And twa. So twa again is the tu plus visarga. So that you have to drop that twa and make it tu. So it becomes yaha tu atmarati eva. So that first word breaks up into 4 words. Yaha tu atmarati eva. Then syat. Then atma tripta cha. Atma tripta cha manavaha. Atmanyeva becomes atmani plus eva. Cha santushtaha. Then tasya karyam na vidyate. That is the sandhi breakup. And to rearrange it into anvaya, it will be yaha tu manavaha atmarati eva, comma, yaha tu manavaha atmarati eva, atmatripta cha, comma, atmani eva cha santushtaha syat, comma, atmani eva cha santushtaha syat, comma, tasya karyam na vidyate. Tasya karyam na vidyate. So look at the line. Tu. So the tu is the beginning. Tu means because, whereas, tasya yaha manavaha, for that person, for that human being, atmarati eva syat, who delights in the atma, who loves the atma alone. So atmarati, rati means being happy. Rati is being happy with or taking pleasure in. So atmarati is a person who takes pleasure in this knowledge of the atma. So tasya yaha manavaha atmarati eva syat, for the person who takes pleasure in the atma. Not only that, atma triptaha, he is content in the knowledge of the atma. In being the atma, he is content. Santushtaha cha. The 2 words are there. Atmaratihi, who is happy being in the atma. Atmatraptaha, who is satisfied. Atma santushtaha, who is contented. And for such a person alone, eva, for such a person alone, na karyam vidyate, nothing remains to be done. Okay, so it's a very nice statement. It says, for the person who loves the atma, who is happy with the atma, who is content in the atma, for such a person alone, that eva is very important. Only for that person, na karyam vidyate, nothing else remains to be done. Right? Cryptic little verse. Let us talk about it. So in the following verses, now Krishna is going to talk about the benefits of this knowledge. Right? Karma yoga itself, remember, is not an end in itself. Neither Bhagavad Geeta, neither Krishna, nor the Vedas, they say that karma yoga is the end in itself. So this brings us to a very important recognition. Wherever somebody, some spiritual teacher tells you that karma yoga alone is the ultimate sadhana, you must remember it is incomplete teaching. You need not reject the teacher, because very often teachers give you the teaching which is necessary for you at your stage. So if it is very obvious to the teacher that you are very firmly entrenched in this world, that Chitta Shuddhi is not there at all. He may not even talk to you about even Upasana, or far be it from Jnana. He may not talk to you about Jnana Yoga at all. He might just tell you, when you go to him and say, okay, fine, you do Karma Yoga, right? You have heard of these, these Zen gurus in Japan. The student goes to Zen guru and says, teach me, your master. So Zen guru says, fine, there's some bricks over there, you build a wall. So the poor fellow builds a wall. And the teacher tells him that you have to build the wall brick by brick. So the poor fellow goes and builds a wall. So after some 10-15 days of hard work, the wall is complete. And then he goes back to the teacher and says, oh master, I have completed the wall. And the master tells him, okay, fine, now take down the wall, but take it down brick by brick. What does it indicate? He is giving him work to do. So keep his mind occupied, but that work is not having an objective. Like there's nothing to be gained. So selfish motives are trying to be eliminated. So what we call Karma Yoga is something like that only. That is a Zen example, but for us, that is Karma Yoga. So while the Gita does not consider Karma Yoga as an end in itself, Veda also does not consider Karma Yoga as an end in itself. You might find that when you go to some teachers, those teachers will assess you and decide that Karma Yoga is necessary for you. And depending upon the teacher, some people may tell you that yes, this is the path consists of Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and you are currently at the Karma Yoga stage. Some teachers may not tell you that at all, because they want to see if you have the capacity, the determination to carry on, and therefore they will say, do only Karma Yoga. But in all this, we must clearly remember that Karma Yoga is not a final sadhana, because Karma Yoga cannot give moksha, Karma Yoga cannot give you Atma Jnanam, and therefore Karma Yoga can never be considered an end in itself, right? But as I said, we don't say Karma Yoga useless. Karma Yoga is very important because it gives you Chitta Shuddhi. Without Chitta Shuddhi, there can be no Jnanam at all. Without Jnanam, there can be no moksha. Therefore, Karma Yoga is incomplete without Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is not possible without Karma Yoga, because Karma Yoga itself, only Karma Yoga can give you purity of mind, Chitta Shuddhi. And therefore, everybody has to follow Karma Yoga initially, Upasana Yoga, purify their mind. After purification of mind, one goes to the next stage of sadhana, which is Jnana Yoga. And many people make the mistake of thinking that Karma Yoga can take you to moksha independent of Jnana Yoga. Krishna makes it very clear that is not so. So, what is the next stage of sadhana after Karma Yoga? That is what we call Jnana Yoga. So, initially in your spiritual progress, you have to do Karma Yoga, you have to contribute to society, you have to purify the mind, and then withdraw from Karma Yoga, or at least reduce Karma Yoga. Because without reduction of Karma Yoga, time will not be available for you to enter into Jnana Yoga, because Jnana Yoga requires an inquiry into my own true nature. And unless I enter this inquiry, which will take away my ignorance, unless I solve this problem of Atma Ajnana, ignorance of my own real self, any amount of spiritual sadhana, whether it be Karma Yoga, whether it be Upasana Yoga, whether it be asana practice, whether it be meditation practice, whether it be bhakti practice, anything will be incomplete. Any sadhana is incomplete until you come to Jnana Yoga. Therefore, the advice is follow Karma Yoga, purify the mind, grow out of Karma Yoga, and enter into Jnana Yoga. So Karma Yoga is like the womb of the mother. There is a particular time until which you need Karma Yoga. After that, you have to come to Jnana Yoga, right? And therefore they say that Brahmacharya ashrama and Grahastha ashrama is like entering the womb of the mother. And thereafter, you come out through Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. And Sannyasa is going out of the activity. The activity stage is called Pravrittihi in Sanskrit. Pravritti means activity. The withdrawal stage is called Nivrittihi. And having withdrawn from Pravrittihi, what should you do? I have to ask the question which we saw in Bhaja Govindam. Kaspam koham kutha ayataha kame janani kame tataha iti paribhavaya sarvam asaram vishwam tyaktva swapna vicharam. What was that? Where did I come from? Whom do I belong to? Who is my mother? Who is my father? Inquire in this manner. This is called Jnana Yoga. And Jnana Yoga is very specifically stated to be in the form of three main disciplines. Vedanta Shravanam, Mananam based on the Shravanam, and Nididhyasnam based on the doubtless knowledge which emerges at the end of Mananam. And Shravanam is what? Study of the scriptures. What do the scriptures deal with? My true nature. Who am I? And assimilating and discovering that true nature of mine, which is what? Ever complete. Purnatvam. That discovery of my own Purnatvam, of my own complete self, my own infinite self, that is the aim of Jnana Yoga. And only when I have successfully followed Jnana Yoga, the struggle in life is over. So Swami Paramatma Ananda gives the example of the puri. You all know puri, right? The little thing you make with wheat. What happens when you put the puri in the oil?
Puffs up, swells up.
Before it puffs up, what does it do?
It goes down.
It goes all around, all around in the oil, right? So
It goes down.
it goes all around the oil. It moves and moves and moves, and as it moves, it becomes bigger and bigger. It stops moving. That is, the puri is completely cooked only when it stops moving. So it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And once fully blown, then it becomes full. So just like that, we are all jivas. Life knocks us about. It takes us here and there. During that knocking off given by life, given by nature, we should mature. The puffing up is the maturity. We should mature. And when we have become fully mature, then we have attained Purnatvam. Right? So we have to remember that our life's goal is Purnatvam. And until that completeness, that Purnatvam is achieved, I will be moving from here to there, not knowing what to do. And therefore, without Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga is not complete. Without Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga is impossible. And the essence of Jnana Yoga is now given in these two slokas. What does Krishna say? He says, Jnana Yogi is really a Manavaha. It's really a human being because he is an intelligent person. Why is he intelligent? Because he has diagonized this problem as what? As the problem of Ajnana. He's understood that the problem is self-ignorance. And if the problem is ignorance of myself, where is that problem located? That problem is located in myself alone. And Swami Dayananda used to say, the problem is you, therefore the solution has to be only you. A problem which is in you, you cannot find the solution outside. And that's a crux. Because until I come to Vedanta, whenever I feel uncomfortable, I look outside for the solution. Sometimes my wife is the problem. Sometimes my husband is the problem. Sometimes the neighbors are the problem. Sometimes the village is the problem. Sometimes the government is the problem. And that is why in every election, people vote for the opposite party. First it is Congress who's ruling, the other problem. Therefore, you vote for BJP. Then the next election comes, BJP is the problem, so you vote for Congress. You keep on changing. You keep on changing people, keep on changing houses, you keep on changing jobs, and nowadays you keep on changing husbands and wives also. Everything you keep changing. But in spite of all these changes, what do I find? Situation has not improved. And then I think about it. I realize situation has not improved because I have been tinkering with the wrong solution. The problem is not outside. The problem is inside only, inside me. The problem is with myself. And if the problem is with myself, I have to start the inquiry about myself. The moment you start the inquiry about yourself, Krishna says you are a manavaha, the intelligent person who has come to self-inquiry, who is trying to find out who he really is with the help of the Shastram, with the help of the teacher. And when you do this self-inquiry, what do we discover? We discover a very rare thing. What is the discovery? Whatever I have been seeking in life, it is already within me. I am seeking security. I am the very source of that security. I am seeking fullness. I am the very source of that fullness. I am seeking peace. I am the very source of that peace. That discovery is made when I start this journey of jnanam with the help of a teacher. And therefore he says, Atmanyevacha santushtas karyam na vidyate. Thereafter, there is nothing more to do in his life. Because until then, until he discovers that he is the source of what he is seeking, all actions are done in the hope of gaining what he is seeking. Right? Until I discover that I am the very source of what I want, all my actions are done trying to get what I want. But once I know that I am what I am seeking, then there is no more action required to be done for that seeking, for that gaining that particular objective, because I am that objective already. That is why he says karyam na vidyate. Nothing more is required to be done. Right? Not that he does not do any actions at all. That na vidyate karyam has to be understood as he does not need to do anything more to become a jnani, because he has discovered that he is already a jnani. So whatever he does now is not done for the fulfillment of something. He does it out of fulfillment. He does not go around looking for happiness. All his activities are done out of happiness. And therefore, Jnana Yogi is described in 3 words here. Atmaratihi, Atmatriptaha, Atmani eva santushtaha. Atmarati is, so we know that there are 3 types of ananda. We have talked about before. Priyananda, Moda Ananda, Pramoda Ananda. These 3, they refer to these 3 types. Atmaratihi, Atmatriptaha, Atmani eva santushtaha. Remember that Priya, Moda, Pramoda, these are all thoughts only. They are all vrittis only. And therefore they are experienced ananda, not the ananda principle which you are. So when I experience ananda as a jnani, I will enjoy it. Right? But I know that the source is not outside. The source is me alone. Atma Ananda. And therefore the word santushtaha here is very important. Tushtaha means content. Santushtaha is samyak tushtaha. Samyak meaning completely. So tushtaha is content. Samyak tushtaha is completely content, completely satisfied. And Shankara says, santushta here you have to take as free from all expectations. And you can take that word expectations as non-binding expectations. You have all expectations that you have are non-binding. You are free from all binding expectations. And therefore, karyam na vidyate. Again, as I said, we have to understand that very carefully, because as a grahastha, you will have duties to be performed. As a vanaprastha, you have duties to be performed. As a sannyasi, you have duties to be performed. So karyam na vidyate simply means that you have no duties, no karyam to be performed by way of sadhana for moksha, because you have already discovered that you are Jivan Mukta. Nothing you do is now going to be for moksha, for happiness, because you are already in binary format. And therefore, everything you do is for the world alone. Nothing you do is for yourself. So your completeness, your purnatvam, your fullness does not depend upon the condition of your mind, and therefore you don't even do anything for chitta shuddhi, because you know that chitta is not me, that you are the atma only. How does it matter whether your mind is disturbed or not? This is the viewpoint from the binary format, from the point of view of the Jivan Mukta. So with this, I'll stop for today. Any questions? We can go ahead. Very, very
Acharya?
important verses. You need to again and again go over them. Yeah. Yes, please.
Acharya?
Yeah.
So you used three words, Atmarati, Atmatrapta,
Mhm.
and
They are all there. Atmarti, Atmatriptaha, and Atmanyevat Santushtaha.
Atmasantushta.
Yeah. So you can take them as Atmaratihi as Priya Ananda, Atma Triptaha as Pramoda Ananda, and Atma Triptaha as actually as other one, Moda Ananda. Those three. You can vary the changes into whichever you want. One is Priya, one is Pramoda, one is Moda. Remember that Priya is the lowest form of Ananda, which is experienced when you see the object of your choice. For example, if you are, let us say, looking at Rasagulla, which you like, looking at the Rasagulla is Priya Ananda. You are only seeing the object. Then Modaha is acquisition. So when you acquire the object, it is Moda Ananda. When you actually experience the object, it is Pramoda Ananda. So seeing the Rasagulla is Priya Ananda. Going and buying it is Moda Ananda. Going and eating it is Pramoda Ananda. Different levels of Ananda, but they are all three are basically Anatma only. They are only thoughts, experienced Ananda. They are not the Ananda principle.
Acharya, I have a question.
Yes, please.
So we are going through our entire lives through Brahmacharya, Grihastha Ashram, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa Ashram. And I'm assuming now as Bhagavad Gita students, we are already, whichever stage of life we are in, whether it's Brahmacharya, the younger people who are in this group, or Grihastha, we're all going through different stages of our lives. And through this knowledge, this divine knowledge, we are obviously working from being karmi to karma yogi. At what fine line, in which stage do we move to Gyan Yogi and become that stage, even being a grihast, like you had said very previously, that even being a grihastha, you can be a Gyani. But we are taking out time from, say, for example, chanting, listening to the classes, and I end up taking up much more time than doing my grihastha activities. So sometimes you feel guilty, that I should be actually doing this, but I'm working towards moving towards Gyan Yoga. Where is that fine line? How do you divide that and say, okay, it is fine to do this?
Okay, so it's a very practical question. How much time do I devote to my duties, and how much time do I devote outside? Right. Now there are people here, who are very, very focused students over here. And there are people who, in spite of being focused students, they have other things to do. right? How do they manage? How do they, do this balance? Now, for example, I think Meda would be here. Meda she's a teacher also. She's a full-time student also. And she runs her own yoga center. And she's a grahastha. So maybe she can tell us how she balances the four of them. Meda or Arvind, would you want to come?
It's a
Tough question, yes.
tricky question, yes, but it's a tricky balance. You have to be practical and realistic. There are a lot of things in life that require your attention, and some things cannot be, put back or compromised. So those have to take priority. But at the same time, you can't just, push your sadhana aside. So being realistic, set some time aside for yourselves. Early mornings are best, nobody's awake, it's all silent. So try to get up early and try to get as much done and out of the way. Then you're free for the whole day to give to other people and, all the work and meetings and all these different things that take up time. So, or, whichever time works, basically in the afternoons or late nights, early mornings.
Yes.
Keep that time aside. And
that
then,
I think is the most important part. How much time can you extract? And remember that we may think that we need 8 hours of sleep, but we don't. Right? The more you're focused. Let me give you my example. Okay. Until very recently, I didn't have a grandkid. So I had plenty of time during the day. I should do a lot of Shravanam. Now I find that my daughter has thrown a fit and says that you're a grandfather, you should spend time with your grandson. Okay. So I spend Monday to Fridays, I spend almost the whole day with him. So I go to her house and stay there and look after him so that she can get some rest. Right. So my entire day is gone. But I didn't want to compromise on my Shravanam, which I still do. So I take to get up earlier. I get up at 3:15. I get 3 hours of Shravanam before I start. The rest of the day is gone, but those 3 hours are there. And when the situation improves and she doesn't need me anymore, then I'll go back to my normal routine. You have to extract whatever you can from the available time, which means you have to prioritize. What is my main focus? It's not very easy. Smita, do I make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Tarka, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. My question is on verse 15, where we say if we follow the lifestyle prescribed by Vedas, we are maintaining that harmony of the nature. So I really, daily encounter this question. My limited intellect tells me that if I offer milk to the Lord, which is coming to me, which is being made available to me in a cruel way, should I still be following that karma kanda portion of Veda, or should I simply discard the offering milk and ghee to the Lord?
See, in the tradition, the cow is a part of your house. Okay. The tradition doesn't talk about automated farming, automated milking. If you wanted milk, you kept a cow in your house. The cow was sacred to you. So therefore, the Veda won't provide you the answers. You need to decide, do I want milk or not? And you can ask yourself, supposing that you had a real requirement for the milk. Let us say you had a small daughter or a small kid who needed the milk. Would you still say the same thing, that the milk is being got in a cruel way and therefore I won't give my child milk? There are no yes and no answers to these questions. These are all things which have to be taken, specific instance to instance, and then you come to an answer.
Okay.
You see, it's not easy.
Yeah.
Yes, broadly you can say that, this is the way I would like it. And if I don't do that, then I do some prayaschitta karma. That is the whole purpose of prayaschitta karma. Though ideally Krishna says you shouldn't, because your actions should be such that they don't require prayaschitta karma. But in today's, as I discussed in earlier class, there are some things which are unavoidable papams. And those also include, which may not be totally unavoidable literally, But because of our lifestyles, they are unavoidable. Usage of flit, for example, killing of cockroaches, these things. So let us live our lives wisely. Okay, as far as possible, we should avoid non-violence. We should avoid killing, and try to live in the spirit of the Veda. That is all. You won't be able to 100% do it because times have changed. But our main focus is basically Shastra. And ultimately, always keep in your mind, which is why I said the last sentence. If you are a jnani, how does it matter whether your mind is disturbed or not? Once you have reached that stage, you are not doing anything for your own benefit. You are doing for the benefit of others.
Yes, I understood this, Acharya. Thank
Okay.
you.
So with this, we'll stop for today. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your
Thank you, sir.
patience. Om
Thank you,
Om
Acharya.
Tat Sat. Thank you.
Thank you.